thank you very much.
Thank you for visiting us.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Please, this way.
Yes. Hello everyone. Today we are having at our office British Ambassador to Turkmenistan, Mr. Hugh Philpott. Mr. Philpott, you are welcome.
Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to your splendid new offices. I have to say, I'm very impressed, and it's too comfortable here. I'd quite like to work here myself. Please don't let any of my team see the luxury you have here. Otherwise, I'm going to have to improve my own offices very quickly.
If you like journalism, you are welcome. You can part-time job.
Ah, good. I might be looking for a part-time job soon.
Okay, thank you. My first question will not concern you, but we'll start with your cat.
Ah, yes.
Tom.
Tajik Tomcat.
Tomcat.
Well, it's actually Tom Tat. I'll explain.
Is he here in Ashgabat right?
Sadly not here at the moment. He's in United Kingdom. My last job, I was working in Dushanbe in Tajikistan.
He traveled with you to Dushanbe?
Yes, and when I was a child, I could not say the word cat very clearly. I used to say tat. It was like a speech thing. So it stuck. So when I had this cat, I called him Tajik Tom Tat. T cubed, T3 for short. Anyway, he's now safely in the UK with my family, and they don't want to send him away. So at the moment, he's happy living there. But thank you for asking.
You must be missing him.
Very much so, very much so. Although there's plenty of animals around where I live in the city, some of them very friendly, and also I've had the opportunity to meet people who look after stray animals in Ashgabat, dogs and cats, and so I may be working a little bit with them in the future, and who knows, I may find another cat or a dog here in Turkmenistan. We shall see.
You are working in Ashgabat for almost half a year. So
yes,
how are your first 6 months here in Ashgabat?
Well, as the very the famous English proverb goes, time flies when you're enjoying yourself or when you're having fun. And so this time has gone very quickly, 6 months already. I've been kept very busy. A lot of things going on both inside the embassy, but also I've been kept busy meeting a lot of new people, both at senior level in government, which has been very good, and I've met and made good contacts and friends with some senior people in government, but also meeting, people like yourself and other people who work in private sector companies here in Turkmenistan. And I see value in creating strong networks, making new contacts, and getting to know new people. That's part of the job of a diplomat. It's part of what we all do, because that makes life far more interesting. So, yes, time flies here in Turkmenistan.
Yes, can you talk about any exact projects that you have done already in these 6 months?
Yes, well, I'd like to talk particularly about something which we can call it a project, but it's longer and bigger than perhaps just one project. I have always been, throughout my career, a great supporter of the creative industries and the creative economy, and also a great supporter of science, arts and research. And in fact, let me take you back 1 year. I was at a meeting in Nur Sultan in Kazakhstan, which was called the Central Asia Creative Forum. It's an annual project which is run by the British Council, supported by the British government. But it means that people who are working in the creative industries, and I'll explain that in a minute, from all over Central Asia were meeting together. I was there, and I was there at that time representing the United Kingdom in Tajikistan. I met the the leader of this organization and this process, and I said, why are Turkmenistan not here? They're a country in Eurasia, in Central Asia, also a country with many talented people, and they said, well, we don't know. I mean, we don't know anybody in Turkmenistan. I said, I'm going to Turkmenistan, I'm going to work there, and I expect, not I would like, I expect Turkmenistan to be invited next time and included. Well, they were. It was in Tashkent, and we were given 4 places to take people from media, from journalism, from
I know 2 of them.
Yeah, you know, you're familiar with this. Yes. I said 4 places is not enough, and I think we sent 20. And since then, we've been involved in small projects with a number of different organizations.
And you're planning to send 20 this year?
I'm planning to send as many as they will let me and I can manage. But I'm also planning, I've been working with some of these colleagues and friends to come up with some ideas, because I think, frankly speaking, Turkmenistan has such super facilities that we need to be looking more ambitiously. We need to be inviting others to come here to see this as a centre where they may want to also bring their activities. They may want to bring their business. It may be easier to bring people here, use the good facilities, share ideas, you know, maybe some good contracts come out of it, maybe some good business, I don't know. So there's some planning and some ideas going on, but the key thing, I probably just need to, in brief, just explain what I mean by the creative economy and the creative industries, because there may be people listening to us for whom that's not so familiar. To be honest, it's anything which creates something based on an idea or innovation. So we can have technology, high technology, computer science, the digital world, so people who are computer programmers, gamers. I mean, in the United Kingdom, gaming is a huge part of our economy. Media, so that can be studios like you have here, where you create videos, you create little films of us discussing, but you also do things which are bigger pieces of work, people working in advertising, fashion, design, even makeup. You know, the women who are working in designing what the new look is for the new wedding. It makes a lot of money. And it's a huge part of the economy.
So that's the reason you had an event a week ago at your residence?
Yes.
Yes. You have invited young people from different sectors?
Very different. We included.
How was that? Unfortunately, I couldn't come.
Well, you missed a very good event, but there will be other opportunities, and there'll be other opportunities for other people who want to participate. I think it was very positive. I think people were very keen to talk about their experiences in becoming entrepreneurs and becoming businesses in their sectors. There isn't a feeling of aggressive competition, it's more a feeling of let's work together to recognize the value to the economy of our sector. And that included people who were working in aspects of design, even traditional Turkmen design, through to very bright young people working in computer programming and such technologies. And what's interesting is, since I've been holding these events and since I've been helping these people meet each other, new friends have got to know each other, people even in Turkmenistan who didn't know each other, and I see them starting to work together. That's success. Because
I hope that it will work, yes.
That's what's meant to happen. I mean, just to give a concrete example, United Kingdom, we're a G7 economy, one of the largest economies in the world. And we were originally a heavy industrial nation, and then through our history we've had to change and develop. We have oil and gas, we have
invented railways.
We have many different things. Yes. But if you look at what's happening right now in the United Kingdom, about 30 to 40% of our economy now comes from these creative industries. And that's always been the way that British people do things. It may be because we're an island, and so we have to find new ways to do things. We have to go and explore. We have to discover. We have to invent. There may be all sorts of reasons. But this sector is growing, and you can't stop it. And so if you can't stop something, you embrace it, you join it, and you make it good. And so for us, it's strongly developing the economy. And I believe that can do the same here in Turkmenistan with your very talented and enthusiastic people. I mean, look how you already have people who are managing to make business even in sectors that you would not think that there was a need or there was space in Turkmenistan. Yes. And they're doing good work also for foreign companies. I mean, not just inside, they're exporting their skills. So, I have some hopes. And I enjoy it, and it's important that I can show through what my country has done, both the mistakes and the successes, to help then develop with Turkmenistan.
Okay, let's go on. I've noticed that last maybe a couple of months you are focused on promoting yourself as an ambassador in local social media. Yes. You have even opened a second account. I mean, you have one personal account in Instagram.
Is it too much?
Yes, and you have another account as an ambassador, right? And yes. What's the reason for this?
Well, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. I have for example, on Facebook, I have my personal Facebook, which I've had for years, and I have a Facebook, which is me as ambassador. But when I came to Turkmenistan, I saw that actually Instagram was far more popular here. And I already had my Instagram, which was for my own personal, private things. Yes. But I wanted something that I could also use if I needed to say something about my own government's messaging. But what's quite interesting is both channels are growing quite quickly, which is good. But I am very small in comparison to some of the very successful and popular Instagrammers who are in Turkmenistan. I want to learn from them. I think that.
But you're not talking about your colleagues. I mean, I don't know any other ambassadors in Turkmenistan who are so making popular Instagram pages.
I don't have to be like everybody else. And in fact, I think you're getting to know me here, but other people who know me here, they know that I'm not really an ambassador you can put in a box and say that's the ambassador box. I'm a lot of different things. I like to communicate. I like to help people. I like to share my ideas and my views and my tastes, because sometimes I think they may be things that other people enjoy. And for example, going back to the social media, this is a good platform to do it, because I can't meet all of those people all of the time. I'd love to meet all of those people personally, of course, we all would. But if I can say you know, this thing that I've done today or seen today, this is a very positive thing, or it is a very beautiful thing, or it is a good thing. Can I show it to you? Can I bring it to your attention? Or this place that I visited, very interesting, good, useful place to visit. I recommend to you to visit it too. Or even if I can say, this thing which has happened has made me sad because it's a bad thing or a cruel thing, and I want you to be aware of it. And I want you also to feel something about it. And perhaps somebody out there who sees these things has some power to do something about it. And they say, oh yeah, it's really good that Hugh has shown us that. I'm going to go and help that person. I'm going to do something about it. Or, for example, I mean, I like very much art, culture and science. These are, for me, are very concrete things. These are things which are all around us. And so if I see something that interests me, I want to show people who I like and people who follow me and say, look, this painting is very beautiful, or this piece of music is interesting, or this discovery is important. So I've enjoyed working on the social media. It's hard work. I mean, you know, you're in media. But for the individual, and probably for anybody listening to our conversation, I mean, if you're thinking of opening a social media platform, it soon becomes quite a full-time job.
Exactly.
Because the key thing is to try and keep it fresh. That's difficult for me. It's a challenge because I have my day job to do.
Yes.
But you have some very competent people in Turkmenistan who this is their job.
Yes.
To create their social media platform. And I think that it's become powerful. It's useful. I would also encourage my contacts and colleagues in the government to also use the various social media platforms more, because I think they'd be very good for putting out information, because it's where people look for information. But also, it's a very good way to express the positive aspects of government policy and that sort of thing.
Yes. Do you have time to do it yourself, or someone in your team post?
I want to
photos?
state officially here that I try to do perhaps 90% myself.
By yourself.
I try to do that.
Cool.
Even if I try to do it in Turkmen language, or I write posts in Russian, I try to do it myself. But I do also have a really, really great team. They all have their own social media identities, but they support me a lot also on the official embassy sites. But I think, look, speaking very frankly about how to use social media, I think the key to making it quality and making it popular is to be personal. I mean, I'm a British person. I represent the British government. I represent my head of state, Her Majesty the Queen, here in Turkmenistan. I have a relatively small embassy here with relatively little resource. But what's important is I need to make myself brand. So I need to use myself as the tool to promote my country's relations with Turkmenistan, and also to support the good things I see in Turkmenistan.
You also have a quite active Twitter account.
I do.
Yes.
It's a very different type of social media platform. I expect some of the people listening to this are familiar with Twitter.
I have a question regarding your Twitter account. Exploring your account, I've seen
You've looked too closely, perhaps.
Yeah. I've noticed a phrase beside your name that says 21st century polymath.
Yes.
What does it mean?
21st century polymath. I'm really happy and glad you noticed. Very happy and glad. I'm very happy that you asked the question. I'll try and answer the question as simply as I can. Polymath, I mean, the word means, in the broadest sense, somebody who does a little bit of everything. You know the word polyglot,
Yes.
and you know what that means, that it's somebody who speaks many different languages.
Are you a polyglot?
I can speak several languages, and I try even to speak some languages here. So yes, possibly I'm polyglot. But polymath goes a little bit further. So it means that you have an intense interest in the sciences and in future technologies. You have a great interest in arts and culture. Perhaps you paint a little bit. Perhaps you do music. You have an intense interest in writing, in journalism, in all of these skills. So when I say 21st century polymath, I'm sort of hinting back to what was something in our history and in the history of Europe, the 18th century polymath, which was called the Age of Enlightenment. It was a time in European history when thinking changed, when people started being less dominated by religious dogma and superstition, but they started to think more about science, art and culture and finer things on a higher level, on a higher plane. That happened in the 18th century. And I was very arrogant to think that that's how I feel in the 21st century. So I'm very much a futures thinker. I don't think in the past. I don't dwell in the past. I'm not sentimental about nostalgia. I like nostalgic things, and I can find pleasure in it. But I believe that we should be living for the future, living for what our children do, what our children's children do, for what the world will be like. We should be paying attention to what we're doing to the planet, climate change. We should be paying attention to how we allow and give freedom of space to the development of science, arts and culture and society. How we should really encourage those who see the world differently. Because if they see the world differently, they're not wrong. They may know something that we don't know. So that's me as a 21st century polymath.
And one of your abilities, which one I know, why you call yourself polymath, you are singing. And you are singing
You
quite
saw that,
good.
did you?
I was there.
You were at the party, yeah.
Yes, I was in the party, yes. And you sing quite good, yes.
Thank
have
you, that's a compliment.
Professional voice, I mean.
Thank you very much.
Are you working on it? Do you have any mentor or?
I have a very excellent mentor and coach and trainer here in Turkmenistan. A very, very nice Turkmen man who has the most superb voice himself, and he knows the right level. He knows that I can do things, and he will push me and make me do things, even if sometimes, some days I feel, I don't really want to do this. He's very good. It's like sport training. Training to be a singer or musician is very similar. It's identical to sport training. You need to keep yourself fit, you need to be enthusiastic, and you need to be quite vigorous when you attack it. And so yes, and I will be, I hope even over this Navruz weekend, I shall be starting my training again, and I shall be thinking about perhaps what my next song should be. Be very interesting to see whether anybody has any recommendations. I'm always looking for good popular Turkmen songs. They can be classical ones or even very popular
I remember
ones.
Last time when I heard you singing, you were singing our great composer Nuri Halmamedov's Turkmen Sakhrati.
It's beautiful.
That was great.
It's well, I was inspired soon after I arrived by his music. He's written some superb symphonic music, some music for independent instruments, but he wrote also a number of songs. And there are some superb recordings, and there's some excellent people who, through your own recent history, have made this music, which is classic music. It's music that will last, music that people will remember, music that people feel. And I wanted to do my own version. And so perhaps actually what I should do is, this is an informal recording that I did at a live concert. Perhaps I should make a more professional one as a way of showing respect for my time here in Turkmenistan. That, going back to what I was saying about my brand and what I do, that's my way that I show respect. I could give a long speech, but giving a song.
So how long did it take to learn this song? You pronounce, you see, most of...
Oh, I did it in 5 minutes. No, it takes a lot of work. I mean, don't be in any doubt. If you're going to do something properly, you have to spend time and work hard.
I want to throw another small compliment. Because I really enjoyed when I was at that party, I enjoyed you pronouncing Turkmen S letter. Most of abroaders, not Turkmens, pronounce it like s, but you pronounce it Thehrathi.
Thehrathi.
As a Turkmen. And
Elevetta.
That's
Elevetta. the thing is. Look, that's just to go boring a minute and be the linguist. That's quite a big difference among Turkic languages, and that's something which is quite idiosyncratic, quite different and strange for the Turkmen language as one of the Turkic languages. The way that you have this th and the sound.
Yes.
For what we call sibilants, which are the S and Z sounds. And interestingly, there is variation in Turkmenistan. For example, I was in Daşakuz, and there it is pronounced not in the way, but in the sort of Uzbek, Kazakh way. Yeah. It's quite different, which made me think when I was in Daşakuz, am I listening to people speaking actually Uzbek language are different? But no, they were using the Turkmen words, but using this pronunciation. So for me, it was also important. It's not only important to show respect, to recognize that this is important Turkmen song from your musicology, from your musical history, but also to be very precise. I worked very hard to get the vowel sounds right and the consonants, because that's part of it. I did the same before when I was in Tajikistan, and if you look out there in the great world of YouTube and Google, you can find me singing something by Ziaudullah Shahidi, who was
in the studio. Yes.
I did, I did that, yeah, absolutely. And similarly, I worked hard to get the Tajik variant of the Persian language to get the pronunciation right. It means something to people. I think people who don't know me, people who just see this foreigner, this person, what is he doing? If I do this and I do it in a correct manner, I touch them. I'm then close to them, and they hear familiar words, talking about spring and walking about the countryside of Turkmenistan, which is this song, this young man, this is my imagination, this young man walking in the mountains, hearing his echo. And I think people will hear that and they'll identify with it. So that's why I did it. But I'll do more. I'll do some more. Yeah. We don't have much time at the moment to practice so much, but I will work on it.
I know that you speak Russian, you understand Russian, and except Russian, in 80s you have been learning Arabic and Hungarian.
Yes.
Yes? Do you speak those languages now?
Arabic is interestingly, when I'm with my colleagues from United Arab Emirates or from Qatar or Saudi Arabia, I can certainly understand what they say in Arabic, and I can answer.
Understand.
Yes, we can have a conversation at dinner. It could be quite simple subjects these days, and I can read, in websites and material.
Arabic?
Yes.
Wow.
I can also do the same in Persian and Farsi and Dari, and I still remember
many
my
languages
Tajiki. I don't know. People ask that question, but I also continue. I read a lot in German, Spanish, and French. And I learnt very early in my life Norwegian. Really?
Now we can say that you are polyglot.
Possibly. But I did, my background was I studied classical languages, so both Latin and ancient Greek, which of course are not languages that one speaks, but they are languages that you need to study closely and quite technically, and also the literatures. And I think when you do that, when you take a technical approach, language learning afterwards becomes a little bit easier, because you know what to expect, you know how languages work. So, for example, I'm making my beginning attempts with Turkmen language now. Understanding pronunciation was important. Now, understanding the grammar, to me, is important. Other people behave in different ways. But I like the sound of it. I think it's rich, it's lyrical, and it's a vibrant, living form of communication. Yes, language, of course, is vitally important, and there are many different ways of learning. You can take a very academic approach, as I was saying earlier, about sort of learning grammar and learning rules and these things. For me, I like that. That works for me. For many people, particularly young people at school, that's very boring. That's very boring, and they want to take a lively, very current approach. And I've done a little bit of language teaching, although my daughter, who is a professional English language teacher to very advanced level, when I listen to her inspiring young people and giving an inspiring lesson, I learn a lot too, because what she does is she encourages people to use whatever they know. So it may be that you only have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words, but use those words. And very quickly you get a level of fluency just with a vocabulary of 100 words. You can make yourself understood. Greetings, pleasantries, requesting things in bazaar and buying things, or in the cafe or whatever, and then the next thing asking about feelings, whether you're happy, whether you're sad, these sorts of things. So I'm trying to do that in Turkmen language, and let's see. I hope to improve.
Can I ask you to say something to our viewers in Turkmen? The sentence that you pronounce quite good. Maybe you say hello.
Okay, I could say bilimok, but men adım Hugh Philpott, men Big Britannian Iltithi. I don't know what else I can say to you, but
no, it's good.
It's an interesting. I'm exploring, and the sorts of things I'm reading in Turkmen at the moment tend to be about sort of greetings and buying things in the bazaar and such like. But I hope soon to be able to take it further.
You will.
And my passive understanding, because what we also need to recognize is active and passive understanding.
Yes.
Passive understanding is when you're listening and what you hear. That grows quicker, that's larger. And my passive understanding is already growing. So, for example, since today, when we're speaking, is Navruz holiday coming. I don't know when you're going to use this interview, and I don't want to spoil it by putting a date and a time on it. That's always a big problem with chat shows in the UK, when people say, hello, it's Friday, and then it goes out on a Monday night, and everyone thinks it's live. Yeah. But anyway, Nowruz is roundabout now.
Yes.
So, you know, I would certainly like to say Bayram Nowruz Mubarak for everybody, because it's one of my favourite times of year, and I hope to be able to get to know a lot of new Turkmen culture for Bayram Nowruz as well.
Now I want you to name 3 cultural features of Turkmen people that you like and that differ us from people in UK. Cultural difference.
Ooh, differences.
Differences and that you enjoy here.
Differences.
Yes.
Well.
Something traditional maybe.
Well, I like the way that Turkmen people are always looking for an opportunity to dance. You may not notice it, but you have a very strong culture of dance here. And what I like is at a party or a gathering or something, most Turkmen people know how to move in a very Turkmen way, and that's a pleasure to see. I particularly like to see it when the young children are being taught at school to do your very specific Turkmen dances, and that's different to us because we don't teach this in our schools. When I was little, we did. We all learned to do our folk dances and our national dances, but that doesn't happen anymore. So I like that. I like some of the food cultures. I mean, food is always a very important, a very concrete, a very obvious aspect of culture. Everybody eats, and we all eat in a slightly different way. You have in Turkmenistan some of the types of dishes that exists more widely in Central Eurasia, but I've also come across some interesting things that exist specifically in Turkmenistan. So I've been introduced to chal, which is a beverage or a drink made from camel milk, which is processed in some way. It is not my favourite drink, I think, but it is very popular in Turkmenistan.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's very healthy.
Yes.
The only reason it's not my favourite drink is because I don't particularly like milk. It's not because I have anything against camels. Camels, in fact, are one of my favourite animals. And if
you don't have camels in UK?
No, we don't.
Only in zoo, maybe?
In the zoo, maybe, if we still have many zoos. But I spent a lot of my career in Arab countries and in the Middle East, where there were many dromedary camels, like the camels you have here, although they look slightly different, but they're the same breed. When I was in Tajikistan and travelled in Kyrgyzstan, you have the Bactrian camel, which has 2 humps.
Yes.
And for me, there's a great symbolism across all of Eurasia of the camel. It's very representative of the Silk Road, it's representative of travel. For example, in Arabic, they call the camel Safina al-Sahra, which means ship of the desert. And also Safar and Safara comes from the verb in Arabic meaning to travel. So there is a sense of this word root. You see, there I go, you see, going on about being a linguist, I see patterns. This saf sound evokes travel to me. So whenever I see a camel, this ship of the desert evokes the Silk Road. It evokes this feeling of something exotic, bringing something, bringing visitors, bringing riches, bringing spices, whatever. I mean, these days it's bringing iPhones on the Silk Road, but sorry, other telephones are available.
I'm not using iPhone.
Yeah, Samsung even then. So those are the two things. And then thirdly, I think dress and how people dress and how people use what they wear. And this is more than just the clothes. This can be the type of bags you have, the type of headdress you wear, the type of belts or ceremonial weapons or this sort of thing. But I think it's very different from my own country, and also I like it very much. And what I like to see also is people I've got to know who are creating a 21st century, a modern version of some of the traditional ways of dressing and behaving. Because what saddens me anywhere, if I go to a country with a rich culture, not just Turkmenistan, and I see this sort of globalized pseudo-Western Russian type of culture which just takes over. You know, it's all very comfortable. We all wear our blue jeans and our t-shirt and things. It's very comfortable. Yes. But I think when we're being special, if we're taking out a special lady or we're in our family or doing something like that, then it's very nice to be more traditional or having something that talks about our culture, talks about where we come from and who we are. Wearing the small hats or even the big woolen hats for the ladies, wearing the different types of hairdresses, the jewelry. I like this.
Have you presented anything, Turkmen kind of dress to Mrs. Philpott when she was
Yes, I have done. I've also given her some very expensive jewelry, but which she loves very much.
It must be silver one, right?
Silver, and then the ones
traditional
which are the mix,
jewelry.
very much so with semi-precious stones. But
she liked it?
Oh, very much so. I mean, very much so, and wears it also walking around in the UK. And there people will marvel and say, where did you get this? And say, well, my husband gave it to me, and it comes from a very nice person in a bazaar in Turkmenistan, so you can't have one. So it's very exclusive. No, it's these things are important. They're nice to have, and they recognize talent of what people do, but also there's a stronger symbolism of how values, they represent values of a people. And so the dress, the jewelry, the food, the animals you keep, the sort of plants you grow, but the main thing that I like is then Turkmen values, and then how people show respect and kindness to each other and will help each other. Since I've been here, I've been very lucky to have many people show me much kindness and help when I've needed it. So, luckily, so far I haven't needed too much, but I feel that it's there.
Right.
It's a long way to answer your easy question, but it's, do you know, when I visit schools and things and different organizations, and often the kids will be given by their teacher a question. It'll be, what food do you like of ours, or what food don't you like, or do you like our country, or do you not like our country? And I can understand why they want to ask these questions. But in a way, the way you phrased it was better. And for me, it would be very happy if the children also start to think and say, like, what have you noticed? What have you seen? What have you tried? Rather than forcing me to say whether I like or I don't like something, ask me what my experience is. And that's also part of education, that's sort of helping young people just think in a different way.
Okay, let's talk a little about relationships of our countries, Turkmenistan and UK.
Yes.
What's happening these days? How are our relationships going? any common? Yes.
Has a good relationship with Turkmenistan, and there's always room to do more. But we're fortunate because with Turkmenistan that we have no differences in our views and opinions. We're both countries who share values around climate change and major global issues. We respect Turkmenistan's neutrality, which this year, by the way, will be celebrating 25 years, I understand. Yes. And so congratulations to Turkmenistan on that. We work well in the international organizations where we work. On the ground, close together, we have a number of commercial and economic interests. We're both oil producing and gas producing countries. We have common interests there. We have common interests in using our agricultural land, and sometimes difficult agricultural land or small agricultural land, well. And so there's some similarities where we can work together on research in agriculture. I've mentioned also at length already the creative economy and creative industries. I think the UK can bring a lot of inspiration to Turkmenistan in this area, but I also feel that there will come a time soon when you can inspire us too. You know, you have a young population who are very eager and ambitious, and it's not always easy to find ways to be successful. And so I'm very interested to see how young people in Turkmenistan become successful even in more difficult circumstances. For example, they may not have all of the materials immediately available or yet here in Turkmenistan, or travel may be a little bit more difficult because you're far away from different places. So the two countries have a lot to offer each other. We also would work in the area of security because we all have shared security interests. It's in the interests of the government of the United Kingdom to see a secure and stable Central Asia and Turkmenistan, and so stability here is important. We live in difficult times, and around Turkmenistan there are some regions of the world that have a number of different types of security difficulties and some unrest, and so it's important that Turkmenistan is supported in helping it maintain its stability. I mean, I've been very happy to work with Turkmenistan and with the OSCE, for example, on something called the Istanbul process, which relates to involving Afghanistan more in activities relating to Central Asia in order to support and enhance the stability of that country. And I think we're all agreed that that's a positive objective.
Another question in politics, I want to talk shortly about Brexit.
Yes.
It's more than 1 month when UK is out of EU right now. It's not in European Union. Yes. Since February 1st, right? Yes. This year. How was the first month out of European Union?
Can I start off with reminding you of something I said earlier, which is that as a 21st century polymath, I think about the future. The future is important to me. What happens in the future and how the future develops. We can learn lessons from the past, and my country have learned lessons from the past, but the future is what's important. So number one, Brexit is a historical event. It's happened. It's done. Yes. It's the past. Yes. What we're looking at now, we're in a transition period where the United Kingdom and its relationship with other European countries is developing into its new shape. So will also the relationship with the other countries of the world. So we're very busy working on that. We've already made a lot of progress. An important part of my work here is working on a very long and detailed agreement with Turkmenistan about how we will be conducting our business in the future, and this all needs to be completed during the transition period. For the United Kingdom, we've seen Our economy is flourishing. We're seeing already examples of new contacts and new opportunities from various different parts of the world. There will be changes. There are always changes in any transition. And change is not necessarily good or bad. Change is purely a fact of movement to a new position in the future. And from where I'm looking and from my perspective, particularly as somebody who feels very strongly geographically that I'm a European, that we as the United Kingdom will have a strong and valuable relationship with all members of the European Union and other European countries who are not members of the European Union and all other countries in the world. But the key thing to remember is that Brexit is a historical event now, and we're in this transition period. And I'm very happy that we find ourselves now with a clear path forward where we can get back to developing our economy, making our country the safe, secure and developed place where it's good and positive for whoever is working and living there to have a very good life, and also for upholding in the way we have done in the past and continuing to do so our high international values and sharing those with others.
At the beginning of your answer, you said that your country has many lessons in the past.
Yes.
And for example, what kind of lessons were you talking about?
Oh,
in the past?
Historically?
Historically, yes.
Oh, well, I think my country has learned through bitter experience how destructive war and conflict can be to a country. You know, sadly, the 20th century was dominated by war and destruction, but the past before that was as well. There have been events in the 21st century around war and destructive events like terrorism that we're learning from all the time. We're learning also on what our people need in the country. We learn through our social experiments. We learn whether, for example, there was a time shortly after the Second World War where it was thought a good thing to destroy all of the individual small houses and put people in large multi-story buildings. And although it practically seemed a good idea to do this because it was much cleaner, it was more efficient, they all had electricity, they all had running water, but socially and psychologically it was damaging to the people because you broke up local communities which existed in these smaller houses. And so going forward now in our future thinking around how public housing and government housing is developed, we take more into account how people behave. So we learned that lesson and what people's needs are. We've learned the lesson that you listen to the people. So most recently the referendum around whether or not to remain in the European Union or to leave the European Union, this was a decision that was put to the people of the United Kingdom, both through a referendum and through subsequent general elections. Mm-hmm. And the people spoke with a loud voice about what they wanted the government to do. And so whether or not it was something personally that members of the government might have wanted or might not have wanted, we've learned through our history that you actually have to listen to the people. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't listen to the people will find a way to make you listen.
True.
So, I mean, I could go on all day about what we can learn from history, but I think you get the idea.
Yeah, I get the idea. Thank you. You are at the service in FCO for 40 years.
Nearly, and I'm very glad you raised that. On the 21st of next month, the 21st of April, so in 1 month's time, nearly, yes, I shall have been a diplomat for 40 years.
40 years. You have joined FCO in 1980,
Yes.
right? And you was only 19 years old.
I was only 19 years old.
So can you tell
Do you really
about
want this story?
Shortly.
In brief, I'm sorry, you can't tell 59 years in brief, but I shall try.
Yeah. The first question is how you came to decision to become a diplomat. So why?
Right.
Your parents wanted you to, or
No, it's nothing to do with my parents. My background is very much private sector, and my background is very much a rural background in the counties of southern England, where we are farming people. We live on the land. That's what I know. I mean, we talk about what my skill sets are and things I know. Actually, probably growing things and farming is probably what, in the beginning, is what I knew best. I'm not saying it's necessarily what I liked to do best of all, but it's what I knew. And those skills have always stayed with me. So I'm still very good with my hands. I'm very good with growing things, and I'm also very good with animals. And I remain very interested. But when I was about 14 years old, I was inspired by two very elderly ladies. These two very elderly ladies lived nearby to my house. What I didn't know is they were sisters, because they didn't live in the same house and they were independent. And I used to go and help them and mow their lawn for them. Both of them had worked for the government. And we're talking very long time ago now. One had worked in our colonial...
1975, yes? If you were 14.
Yes, 1975. So if they were very elderly and retired, they were born in the 19th century. So they were working in government in the 1930s. One worked in our colonial service in Borneo, in the island, which was then part of the British Empire. And the other one worked for our secret intelligence service during the Second World War, and was involved in many exciting things. Both extraordinary people. And both of them said to me independently that I would be a good candidate to go and work at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and become a diplomat.
How they made that kind of decision?
I don't know. They knew me because I mowed their lawn and I talked to them. And one of them would always speak in French to me, and one of them would always speak in German to me to make sure that I practiced these languages, which of course they spoke. So later...
you were studying in high school, right, that time?
I was still at secondary school at that time, that's absolutely right. Anyway, I mean, history went on. I did well in my exams. I managed to gain good places at university, but for personal reasons at that time, I didn't go and I didn't take up the university place. I then spent some time travelling in Europe. I came back to the United Kingdom. I worked for a very short time for a famous international bank. I hated every minute of working for an international bank, and I thought I need to follow my dream and join the Foreign Office and become a diplomat.
That was a dream?
Yes, it was. I liked the idea of it. And here I am nearly 40 years later, and if your next question is going to be, am I disappointed? What was the dream like? No, I was never disappointed. It has been the best time. I've met some fantastic people. I've been in some incredibly difficult situations and incredibly joyful situations. But the most important thing of all that my career in the Foreign Office brought me, and particularly that day, the 21st of April, back in 1980, 40 years ago, is that was the day I met my wife.
The same day?
We were both joining the Foreign Office on the same day.
Wow.
And what was unusual is the man who was introducing us and running our first training course, he said, there will be two of you in this room who will become married, will become boyfriend and girlfriend.
Really?
I mean, we were like children to him because we were very young people.
She has also just joined FCO that day, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And my wife stayed in the diplomatic service for 30 years. And then she took an early retirement to pursue other careers and also to do a degree in psychology. During my 40 years, apart from learning all the different languages and learning to sing and doing all the different things I've done, I also managed to finish my university education and in fact do more than finish it once, do many different university level qualifications. So I didn't miss out on the education either. So it was an interesting career. It was a career, it may not happen like that again today for a young person. The world changed, it's a very different place.
I don't think that a 19 years old man can join FCO right now.
And become an ambassador. I don't know. I would like to think it's still possible. If there are people who have the potential, people who have the promise, sometimes the fact of having a university degree and a piece of paper to say that you also spent 3 years after school doing that thing, it's not a guarantee that they are the right people. It's really not. For any job. You know, you could do an apprenticeship. You could, I've met here in Turkmenistan, for example, people who are world-class designers who have had no formal training. They've trained themselves. And then they get their formal qualification afterwards, when they know what they're good at and what they want to do. I sort of did it like that. I didn't plan it like that. You know, I planned the normal route, but it didn't happen. And I had a lot of fantastic experiences. And another day, when you've got far more time to listen to me, I can tell you about that time and the experiences.
Okay. Talking about your family, you have only one daughter, pretty daughter, Miss Clarissa.
Yes, I don't consider it as only one daughter. You have to understand, as a linguist, language is very important to me. And when people say you only do something, it has a negative connotation. It suggests that in your mind, I should have more children. I like to think as I'm lucky to have a daughter. People who have children are very fortunate to have children, and they owe everything to their children. Then their children owe them nothing because they were never asked to be born. So it's our duty as parents to give them every opportunity.
I wanted to ask, as a Turkmen man,
yes.
Traditionally Turkmen families have more than 1 or 2 children.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a tradition here. For example, I have 4 children.
Right.
Yes, and so I wanted to ask, have you ever maybe wanted to have more children, or maybe Clarissa wanted to have a brother, or and how is tradition in Britain? How?
Well, the next time you see her, you'll have to ask her whether she'd like a brother and sister, because I couldn't answer that question. Would I, as a father, have wanted any more children? No, I didn't ever think I wanted more children than I have. If I had had more children, would I have been happy? Of course, because I would have been in that life. But I think it goes a little bit back to what I said right at the beginning about how I'm a futures thinker. I don't dwell on the past and say, oh, I wish I had this or I wish I had that. We are where we are. And I'm very fortunate and very lucky to have one fantastic daughter.
Yeah, she's really fantastic.
And that's great. That's important for me. You know, I think also when you ask a question like that, there's something important also to think about and remember. Sometimes people don't choose. Sometimes there is a reason why there might be no children, or there may be one child, or there may be a child that has a disability, or there may be a child that died when it was a baby. So sometimes choice doesn't come into it. Sometimes I think the world and life just allows you to have what you have.
My question regarded more traditions. I mean, comparing again to Turkmen people, I think that in Europe,
yeah, I understand.
yes,
Traditions, to be honest, I think it's the wrong way to describe it. I don't think the size of your family has got anything to do with tradition. It really hasn't. And I know that in many developing countries and also in countries like Central Asian countries or in very religious countries, people like to think there is a tradition to have a large family. No. The reason you have a large family is built into historical, practical need that often families, and if you look at the demographic, it is often the poorer the family, the more children they have. It's often to do with survival rate of the children, an insurance policy to look after you when you're elderly, and to create a larger extended family of substance. I don't think there's a tradition. It's not like we do this because it's a Turkmen thing to do.
let's skip this question.
Yeah. No. It's an important question. I don't want you to skip it. It's an important question. Because the other thing that I want to say is my grandmother, for example, was one of 9 children. So she was in a large family. And for us, at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, it was tradition to have large families. But I think at the end of the 20th century, people have to travel to find work, they need to be more mobile, often they choose not to have children at all. It's very expensive to raise a child. So you don't have 1 or 2 because you choose. Actually, that's probably all you can afford. It's better to be able to afford to raise healthily and well educate 1 or 2 children than not to be able to give 9 a good duration. Yeah.
I've heard her singing at that party, and she really has a very
Super voice.
Yes, super voice. She's a professional singer, right?
Well, she's not professional, but her level is professional, and she has sung at people's weddings before. It's like the tradition and culture here to have a wedding singer. She has done that before, and she has done 1 or 2 things. I think she would like to be a professional, but she has a lot of different futures open to her, and I will encourage her and support her in whichever future path she decides to follow. But yes, that talent may have been inside, and it's a physical thing. It's like being a sports person. You have the body and the physique to become good, but your family also have to give you the space and the opportunity. They have to encourage you. They have to pay often. So it may mean I didn't buy new suits or new clothes or a new car for myself because it was more important for me to invest in my daughter.
Of course. Okay, let's summarize our official part of interview.
Yes.
The last question in this part. Please share your plans for this year. What are you planning? I mean, embassy.
Right. Well, I mean, we've had this interview, and there's one important thing that we haven't mentioned, which in English, to use the current fashionable English expression, we haven't mentioned the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room globally, if perhaps not in Turkmenistan, is COVID-19 or coronavirus, which is a pandemic at the moment and is impacting on a lot of people. And I want to take the opportunity to wish everybody to remain very healthy and safety. Remember all of the hygiene instructions that are available. Turkmen government are being very efficient in giving very clear instructions and taking very good precautions. If we all follow this, we'll all remain safe. To go back to your question, my year is looking different. My year is looking a little bit different to how it started. But even if we have to delay things by a few months because of COVID-19, this very horrible virus which is impacting a lot of people, I hope to do more work around promoting UK and Turkmen relations over the creative economy. I want to work more with Turkmen government and multilateral organizations on security and stability. I want to be able also to work together with the government of Turkmenistan on some of the issues around human rights issues in the broadest terms, so that's sort of things like gender equalities, the role of women in society, and also the rights of people with disabilities and supporting them. Turkmenistan has already done some good and positive work in this, but I think UK government working together with Turkmenistan to help change attitudes among people. We talked about tradition earlier and how sometimes the word tradition and the word culture is used sometimes to cover up or explain sometimes negative things. And I think this is an area where tradition and culture perhaps needs to be changed a little bit and become more flexible for women and people with disabilities. Bring them into the open. Let's use them more and make them a fuller, fully rounded member of society. So I'll be working on some of those issues. I'd like to do some more media. I think it's quite good to find the opportunity to talk about any number of subjects. And I'm also, of course, open to suggestions from anybody in Turkmenistan about what sorts of things they see as important. I'll be supporting my industry and my companies in finding the rich opportunities in Turkmenistan in order to get some good contracts in oil and gas, construction, agriculture. There's some big projects here. So yeah, plenty, actually, plenty. And I may sing another song. And
You are working on it right now? With your mentor?
do you know, I'm going to talk to him this weekend about it. You have inspired me. Officially, here and now, you have inspired me to do more.
But we'll not spoil it right now.
No, we won't spoil it right now.
Okay.
No, we have to wait and see.
Okay.
I'll come back and see you.
Okay. Let me invite you to have a cup of coffee and we'll
That would be
get
lovely. I thought you'd
to
never
our
ask.
Blitz part.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have
yeah.
another part of our interview. Yes, we'll make a short break and
Excellent.
go on.
Brilliant. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. It's got coffee.
Yes.
Very tasty.
Yeah, I like it. Now we'll go on with our Blitz questions.
Yes.
Short ones, but you can answer as if you like, not briefly.
No. Keep me brief. Otherwise I'll talk too long. Shoot.
You don't like talking brief.
I can.
You can. You can?
Go on. Yeah.
Okay.
Try me.
Let's go on. Your favorite hobby?
Singing.
What do you value most in people?
Love.
Your favorite movie? Do you enjoy watching movies?
Oh, I enjoy watching movies all the time. I enjoy watching TV. I enjoy reading books. I can't get enough of it.
You are polymath, I remember.
Yeah, so actually, I can't answer that question. There were too many.
Three of them that you remember, first of all.
La Vita è Bella, which is an Italian movie about the Holocaust, but it's a comedy.
Comedy about Holocaust?
Yes, I shouldn't explain, but it's a wonderfully charming and sad film. All of the Star Wars,
All of them.
all of them. Old, new, all of them. And including that, actually all science fiction, mostly. So that's all of the Alien, all of the Star Trek, all of the Star Wars, yeah, all of that. And all of the fantasy genre. So all of the Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit,
I see.
Harry Potter.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'd say that this film that deals with a very sensitive story about a family during the Holocaust, Italian film, that's one of my favorite that sticks in my mind.
Okay. Your favorite way to relax? How do you relax?
Other than sleeping,
Sleeping.
other than sleeping, I listen to music and I read. That sounds very ordinary, but that's
It is.
yeah. But that's my favourite way to relax. Yeah, listen to music and read.
The last book you have read?
The last book I've read, well, I'm actually reading at the moment Robert Harris's The Second Sleep, and I think it was
Fiction.
Dan Brown Origins could have been the last, or one of the Dan Brown books, and also Camilleri, who writes the Montalbano. It's Italian, fiction, detective fiction. Those were books that I read last month. Yeah.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Beatles or Queen?
Queen.
Pub or restaurant?
Ooh, difficult. I think cafe that serves alcohol. I'm not a great fan of restaurants because I cook myself, and pubs, I like them, but for a short period. So pub, I'd go pub. Yeah, pub. Out of those two, but a cafe that serves alcohol.
You have favorite one in Ashgabat? Pub?
That would be very wrong of me to say, wouldn't it?
Just say yes, I have.
Yes, I have, but it would be very wrong of me to say.
Okay. Beer or whiskey?
Whiskey.
What is happiness?
What is happiness? Happiness is when I feel positive, when I feel fulfilled, when I'm not crying, and when I feel love.
Your childhood dream that has already come true?
Well, we talked about that at length. It sounds very dull that as a child I wanted to become a government civil servant. No, as a child I wanted to become a diplomat. I also wanted to be a singer, and my very first dream was to become a zookeeper,
So the next
to
question
work in zoo park.
So the next question was about that, a dream that never came true.
To work in zoo park.
What is your main flaw, disadvantage
My main flaw.
of your character? Yes.
Sometimes I talk too much, and sometimes I don't say enough.
Which one is happening during our interview?
Both can happen at the same time.
Well,
No. It's the difference between actually talking and actually saying something useful. So sometimes I can say a lot of words and I can make a lot of people laugh, but am I actually saying anything that's important? That's the key.
okay. Who is a friend?
What, who's a friend to me or who's a friend in general?
I'm not talking about exact person.
Definition of a
definition of a friend for you. Yes.
A friend is somebody that you can have the fiercest argument, the fiercest fight, the person who you can hate the most, and still you go back to them to look for their support and help and advice. That's a friend.
Do you have this kind of person in your life?
Yes.
In Ashgabat or in UK? Your friend.
Well, today is
yes, these
that
days.
friend. Today, this friend isn't in Ashgabat, but this friend is sometimes here and sometimes not here.
Your favorite Turkmen dish?
My favourite Turkmen dish? Well, it's no secret that I am an absolute fan of ubiquitous shashlik, but that's not particularly Turkmen. I mean, that's more of a Turkic
Yes.
thing.
What about
Turkmen, it'll be Turkmen salads actually. Turkmen salads, because I like the fresh vegetables here, and so I think it's any of the salad. I can't remember the different names.
Okay. Turkmen salads or English fish and chips?
English fish and chips. Well, I love fish and chips. I come from by the sea, but I can't have them here because you have no sea, so you have no fish.
Do you cook at home?
I cook, yes.
You like it?
Yes, I do like to cook, but I would never cook fish and chips. This is very specialist. You should go to a very special person.
London.
No, London is the worst place.
Really?
You have to be by the sea. It's got to be near where the fish needs to come from the sea into the plate. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. 3 most important assets of United Kingdom. Maybe cultural assets.
Oh,
I know there are too many, but
well, this is gonna be a bit of a cliche, okay? Physical assets, I'd have to say Her Majesty the Queen, not just as a person, but as an institution. Everything that she represents and stands for. And I really do feel that and do believe that. I don't necessarily describe myself as a royalist, but I feel that what she has done for more years than most of us have ever been alive is important and vital, and not just for the UK but actually for the world. So that's a physical asset. I think innovation and creativity. I think the British people, because of their history, because of what they've been through, because perhaps of being an island, they have an individualism that promotes a need to discover, a need to do things differently, a need to be noticed differently. So that's a value for me. Sometimes it's called sort of British eccentricity, which means it's a little bit mad. I see that as a positive thing, so I like that. And then I think our country, and our climate. People often use or describe our climate as a bad thing. In old Soviet textbooks, they talk about the rain in London.
Cloudy rain.
Right. Believe me, it's not always, but it does. But we're today in Ashgabat, which is probably one of the sunniest places on the planet, and it's very cloudy and a bit rainy. So, no, I think it's weather. Why? Because we have a temperate, moderate maritime climate. It is never too hot, it is never too cold. We have wind, we have still days. We have humidity, we have dry days. We have everything.
Because it's an island, right?
Because it's an island, because of where it sits in the world, but also we have everything in the same day. The weather can change at any time. So people always say to me, oh, you shouldn't have this party in the garden on this day because it'll rain. For us, we never think about this. We have it. We expect it to rain, and then it'll stop raining, and everyone will have fun. So I think an asset is our weather and our attitude towards weather.
Okay. If you were to become omnipotent for a moment, what would you change in this world right now?
You mean if I were to become omnipotent for a moment rather than, as I am, omnipotent all of the time? No. But joking apart, what would I change? I think, the classic answers are to get rid of poverty and to get rid of ill health and whatever. All right? Well, I want to put it in context. Of course I want to do all those things. But I think I would pick child malnutrition. I would want to get rid of children who are malnourished or abused. If I could get rid of all abuse and all starvation for children, that would be something very worthwhile doing. To give every single one of those children a fair and safe opportunity to realise their ambitions.
Thank you. Your favourite saying?
My favourite saying?
Yes.
Never let the best be the enemy of the good. Do you know what that means?
Yes. In Russian, лучший враг хорошего. I like that one too.
Absolutely. Because particularly when we're in time of crisis or we have to get something done in a short time, perfection, we are never going to be able to create or achieve complete perfection. But we need to be able to do things that get the job done, that keep us safe, that keep us healthy, particularly at the moment with the current crisis. I think perfection is something which is almost unobtainable because it's very much in the eye of the beholder. For example, you can stand in the Sistine Chapel in St. Peter's in Rome and you can talk about the ceiling there and the beautiful paintings, and you can say, well, this is perfection. But then you can then look at something else and you can say there is a tree growing and you look at the leaf and what's up, and this is perfection. Well, is it perfection, or could it be a little bit different? No, I think what nature did, what the creators said is like, this is what it is.
Yes.
This is what I'm going to leave. So this is good. So let's set the best aside and let's just get the good.
Okay, and the final question. If you had a chance to go to the past and meet yourself in 1980 when you were 19 years old and give a message to yourself, a young boy, just one message, what would you tell him?
You were right. You were right. That's what I'd say.
Great answer.
Cheers.
Cheers. We have a small present from sponsor of this video, Coffee Bazzetti.
Thank you very much.
This for you.
Delicious coffee, and I actually go there from time to time, but this is very kind indeed. Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Bazzetti.
Thank you for coming.
I'll make sure. It's been a great pleasure. I've enjoyed myself immensely.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.